Hello, everyone. Welcome to our new GSG Talk, GSG Talk number 19, almost 20. We'll have to prepare something special for our 20th edition, but we have something special today. Also, we have with us Mr. Bardic Perspiration and Mr. AbstractAMCR. How are you guys?
Doing well.
Doing pretty good. Appreciate you having me.
Okay, as I said last week, I have been told during these talks, I say nice too much. So if you hear me say nice, please insult me or just mark it in a negative way so I don't do it anymore.
The real question is, what are you going to say instead?
I don't know.
It's a load of crap? Or?
Yeah, what a bullshit answer. I was thinking using that, but I don't know. Let's start. The tradition states that the first question we ask is about your name. So maybe you can tell us how you got your streamer's name, please.
Sure. So Bardic Perspiration was never supposed to be any kind of name associated with music that I make or anything like that. Aside from being into music, I'm also quite into Dungeons and Dragons. Anybody who's familiar with the game probably maybe caught the reference. And I made this name up several years before I started streaming or even found out about Twitch because I wanted to make some kind of D&D content. And I thought this sounds funny. And I don't know, you can also like make up some stories about, how I'm like working hard on creating something and sweating or something like that. And then I signed up for Twitch, and then somehow it just kind of became a thing. And now this is my name. Although I'm in the process of getting a little album together to release, and I'm not going to release it under this name. I'm going to release it under a different name.
Nice. What name will that? I didn't say nice. That was a trap. What's the name you're gonna use for your album?
That's a secret. You gotta tune in.
But if it's a
reveal, how
are we gonna listen to it if it's a secret?
Well, I mean, I'll announce it on the stream. I'm not gonna completely, decouple my stream from everything else in the world. But I'm almost at 1,000 followers, and when I hit 1,000 followers, that's when the big reveal happens.
All right. Good. We had Caffeine doing a nice count. Thank you. That's very nice of you. You can throw that in. How are you, AbstractAMCR? What's the story behind your name?
So the AMCR part kind of is multiple things. Back in 1984, there no internet, none of that stuff. But I grew up with lots of computers around in that sort of household. And the first screen name I ever created signing into a BBS was AMCR, which is the dyslexic spelling of my name. So that's kind of has always been around.
So your name is Cram.
That's right. My name is Cram. But when I sort of came back out from the darkness that I was in for a long time, I added the abstract to it. And it's the whole thing stands for Abstract Acoustic Mental Creative Resonance.
Oh. I wasn't.
I'm going to say nice now.
Yeah. I said I was going to say I wanted to use my nice card for that one because that was very nice.
Okay, I'll play mine.
Okay. But when I read the first time, I thought it had something to do with these people that leak microphones.
I in retrospect, I really kind of wish I had gotten the Abstract AMSR kind of tag, just because I get mistaken for it all the time anyway, and it just would have been a pretty damn interesting.
People think you do those kind of streams.
Yeah, well, when people read it, they see the A and they see it in capitals, and the next letter's in capitals, and it's an M, so they just assume SR.
It can happen.
It's fine.
How did you guys met the guild? You know, in previous talks, we asked this question: how did the guest got to meet the guild? And a lot of them actually said Bardic showed it to me. So now let's do an inception question and let's ask how did Bardic got into, and of course Abstract as well. But I'm curious about that. How did Bardic got into the GSG?
So I actually had to do some research on this because I knew you were going to ask this question. 'Cause I've seen some ones, and I have a terrible memory about anything like that. So if I forget anybody and you're watching, then I'm so sorry. But so what I could figure out through my extensive research is that during the pandemic, more like a lot of other people, I was looking for some way to relieve my my depression and tension and stuff like that. And I actually got onto Twitch via Harry Mack, the freestyle rapper artist guy, and I saw that I was really into his stuff because he's very positive and stuff, and he gave me a great feeling when I watched his stuff. That got me into Twitch, and then within like a day or two, I stumbled across Love You Loves You, so Love You was like my gateway drug basically to the rest of Twitch and also to the Golden Shrimp Guild. A couple days later, I followed ActiTech. I think Beta Units was pretty soon after that too, yeah. So that's basically the story for me.
Mm-hmm. All right. How about you, AMCR? How did you?
So, well, I've been on Twitch for about a decade, and in the early days,
That's a lot.
Of when we were sort of in DJ streamings, we had created the Twitch DJs community, and there wasn't necessarily a lot of people streaming. There certainly was a lot of synth people, and so I got connected to Dan through the Twitch DJs community and rating in, and from Dan, SynthLab, ActiTech, and kind of came on from there. I started collaborating a lot with Dan. That's kind of what kicked it all off for me. I met Dan, saw Dan doing this thing. I was like, dude, I would love to do some visual stuff. And we just hit it off, and we've been close friends ever since. Same with SynthLab. You know, we've for me, my entry point into GSG was a collaboration. Like lots of people willing to collaborate, which it wasn't that people didn't want to collaborate in like DJ communities or whatever. It's just that not everybody has sort of the multifaceted skill sets, abilities, equipments, all those sorts of things. But this particular group of people is highly technical, proficient in general, both in their streaming and outside their streaming, sort of the nature of modular synth stuff. So it was always a really happy connection. And Toto Robin, I've done a lot of cool stuff with her and some of her art and her amazing photography stuff. And it's just sort of grown from all that, which is really cool.
I'm curious about what difference do you see in Twitch 10 years ago and now, where things have changed this time?
It's sort of a scale up more than any real big change per se. There's certainly the volume of people doing it, and the spectrum of people doing it. It's broader, right? From beginner to, pro level kind of output. You kind of can see a much bigger swath of the spectrum today. There's more resolution in that view than there was, 6-10 years ago.
Were there more amateurs back then, or the other way around?
I think it was more the other way around, because you had to have a level of proficiency and ability to be able to do it, because 6-7 years ago it was a bit of a darker art than it is today. Now it's really super straightforward, and anybody can do it. And it's not that it was hard then. It's just you had to go looking for that information, and a certain type of person was looking for that information who already had base understanding of how to do things with technology. So therefore you got fewer, people just starting, and people who may have just started streaming, but they were working this and doing that, and they already had a studio, and they already had the basics and everything.
And the tendency with Twitch also seems to be getting more strict with their terms of service over time. So in that logic, I would have to think that 10 years ago, there was more weird shit going on. Was that so?
Not really. In fact, I don't know. I don't know that there was anything. I mean, because you still had, your audio mutes still happening if you played commercial music, and you still couldn't show like movies or whatever. Like, I don't remember seeing anything out of the ordinary or that I couldn't find on Twitch today.
That's a shame. Was hoping to. Well, what you gonna
now,
do?
if we're going back even further than that to the Justin TV days, right before it came Twitch, well, then that's a whole nother jam. Because you watched bootleg TV shows and movies on it. That's sporting events, whatever. It was all there.
Justin TV it's the same company that became Twitch? No.
Correct. It's what Twitch was called initially, back way back. It's Justin TV.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Okay. What do you do for a living, both of you? I know we talked this over at the pre-talk, but this is a good way of introducing the next topic.
Yeah, so I teach philosophy at a university here in Germany.
Germany, nice place to teach philosophy. There are a lot of great philosophers there.
Yeah, but if I'm being honest, my focus is not so much on the European or German tradition. It's more like Anglo-American tradition stuff for the most part.
All right. Who's your favorite philosopher?
Well, as I already told you in the pre-talk.
Yeah, I know, but it was an interesting answer. So
it's like asking somebody for their favorite band. I mean, or if you ask me for my favorite band, I'm not going to have an answer for you. It depends on what you're looking for. Depends on your mood. Depends on what your goal is. Different philosophers are good at different things. And as I said there, I'm more kind of, which is typical for kind of like the tradition that I tend to work in. I'm more interested in specific arguments and ideas rather than the specific people that like put them forward, I guess you'd say.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't really say that there's a favorite philosopher for me.
I don't know how is it down there, but down here it's the other way around. The cult of personality takes a big part of philosophy here.
Yeah.
Like in psychology, they have like the Freudian and the...
Mm-hmm. There's some different traditions too, as far as that kind of stuff goes. So like the tradition that I tend to work in is more like what you would call like analytical or systematic philosophy. And that's really typical for that tradition. And I mean, people from the other tradition will criticize you for that, to like abstract away from the person and the maybe also the historical context, which I don't like to do that. I like to read things in their historical context. But so some people will say like that's the wrong way to go about it because you're not getting the full picture if you're only looking at these ideas and arguments, like I said earlier. Mm-hmm. But in other traditions, it's much more common to like focus in on the whole work of a particular philosopher or something like that, rather than just like trying to abstract out their specific arguments or something like that. So, but both, in my opinion, like all these different ways of doing philosophy are all legitimate. This is just the way that I tend to work.
Mm-hmm. And how about you, Abstract? What do you do for a living?
So I am co-CTO of a content creation platform called Postgame that we're building to help content creators solve the blank page problem.
The what?
The blank page problem.
Well, what's the blank page problem?
So the blank page problem is you have all of the things you need to make something. But what do you make? How do you get started?
Oh.
How do I go from inspiration to action and do it within one place, right? So it's sort of a workflow tool. And then beyond that, I do technology consulting, hardware and software, a lot of it focused in sort of the AI space. And that's what I've done.
Where should people go if they want to check out your how would I call it, your project?
Well, my projects are done for people who are paying, but you can go to postgame.ai.
Because everyone's listening is probably some sort of content creator. So this is your demographic.
I mean, look, there are a billion people that identify as content creators, and there's a billion more within the next 2 years that want to identify as content creators. So yeah, it is a big deal. Unfortunately, the stuff that's up on the website is not like again, it's a brand new product. So we just rethought how we were going to do everything. Originally, there was going to be a social network part to it.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, the terrifying reality of having to mediate content at scale and moderate that stuff was just keeping me and my co-CTO up for like months on end. And we were like, you know what? That's not really what's important to what we're trying to do. We're not doing that part. We're going to focus on, and when we say content creators, or I should say, when I say a content creator, that term tends to be very monolithic, right? You see the person on that YouTube channel and you identify that content as them. But the reality is there's an array of people, at least in terms of the 1%, that are making that piece of content. And most of them isn't monolithic. It's just this appearance. Now, when you start out as a content creator, you are a monolithic entity. You have to understand the basic softwares. You have to understand the workflows, and that requires a level of, autodidact ability, word of the day, that you have to either innately have or find some walkthrough in a YouTube channel that gets you there, right? So we're trying to demystify some of that stuff and simplify what it means to be a content creator and get people to understand and learn why they like the things they like. That's a big part of what we're trying to build with inside of the application is the notion of creative play. And through that creative play, you learning why you like a piece of content and a system that's working with you to help you understand that. And when it does do that, that adds to the heuristic models that build up around you. So when you say, I want to create a 2-minute video about teaching synthesizers, and the system builds out your platform for, puts the initial stakes in the ground that you should follow, that is all done through the lens of your heuristics. I like things with a dark LUT. I like things that are like this in nature and in transitional effect, right? Like those sorts of things. And we apply that stuff around what you're doing.
All right. Someone in the chat is saying that your mic is a little low. So maybe if you can put your mic closer to your mouth, or if you have a gain knob, that would be cool.
For me?
Yeah, I hear you okay, but they are saying that your mic could be a little higher. I have you on my end as high as it can go. So
I'll see what I can do.
Okay.
Can you also talk louder?
Yes. Maybe I can say something that gets you mad, so you keep screaming at me. Can you repeat the link for your webpage so I put it in the chat?
It's I'll type it in there.
No, you'll get banned. Don't do it.
Oh, gotcha. So it's postgame, POST game, all one word.
Yeah.
.com.
Is that it?
Or that's it.
Cool. Nice domain.
Take everything on that at that site with a grain of salt because it's all about to be reworded.
Oh, there's a way. I didn't know this. There's a way of permitting people to. Well, I already did it, but that's great too, because we've had guests. You try to create a comfortable atmosphere for guests, and then they get banned, and that's not that's not a way of making someone feel comfortable.
Wait, you know what? The .com is not working, so I'll do it now that I'm permitted. Maybe.
Great.
Yeah, that one worked.
So we let's recap. We have a philosopher or someone that knows about philosophy on this side, and we have someone that knows a lot about AI on this side. So guess what the next question is gonna be?
Your favorite pizza topping?
Exactly. Do you like when they put watermelon? No. Everyone in the artistic community, for one way or another, had to deal with this AI fashion, if you want to call it. I don't know. The AI biting into everything. And when you get into the art world, which is a world that we already know, it's not a world where we all get paid a lot for our work. It's not a world where we get a steady job for doing our thing. So when something comes into the picture and makes our contribution a little easier to substitute, that makes a lot of people nervous. So what are your feelings about this? Let's do the other way around. Let's start with Abstract for like the technical things, and let's get philosophical into Bardic. I think that can work out.
Okay. So from a technical standpoint, this exact argument that is being had with AI, or at least people think they're having an argument, they're really just talking to a black hole, but was had when digital photography became a thing and Photoshop and Illustrator hit the market. The exact same thing happened there. For a long time, you couldn't even copyright digital works of art because they weren't recognized. And then all of that changed. And this is not going to be any different than that. Same thing happened when the car came out. Same thing happened with planes and different types of planes. This is the same exact argument that humanity has had over and over and over again against technology. You see it in metalworking, power hammers versus hand hammering. Same arguments. The machine is still just a machine. It is what it is. It's going to do the things that it's going to do. And as we go on, all of these diffusion models will be trained off more and more synthetic data. So there won't even be human anything put in there. And the argument that I always make with everybody at this stuff is, if you go to an art gallery and you see a painting that inspires you, and you say, I want to create my version of that painting. And you go home and do that. And the person's in the same sort of pose, but everything else about it is different. Did you just copy that person? Because that's exactly what diffusion models do. But it's okay for the human to do it, but all of a sudden everybody has a problem when the machine does it. So in my perspective, humanity holds machines to expectations and levels that they don't hold other humans to. And it's not fair. You should never expect a machine to be more human. Why would you want to build something that sucks? That's always my other argument there. The machine is the machine. It's different. And its very nature as an electromechanical device. And so have expectations that are on par with what its abilities are, and don't hold it to standards you would never hold that you can't hold another human to. So,
all right, but
that's my 2 cents on it.
I could argue that humans are affected by the political aspect of it.
That's humans doing. That's not the machines doing, though.
That's right, but how
politics is a human invention. It's not an invention that exists in the universe and part of physics. So,
okay, Bardic, please enlighten us.
No. If that's the design, then you're gonna have to go back to somebody else. But I will say what I think about it at this current point in time, and so I would agree with a lot of the stuff that Abstract just said about it. That I think that a lot of the worries right now, just from my perspective, are pretty overblown. mostly not because I don't think it's going to change things pretty significantly, because I do, but because there's a lot of I think specific focus on like a kind of knee-jerk reaction to a lot of things that only kind of focuses on the negative side of things, or kind of jumps to conclusions about what the point of all this stuff is in the first place. On the other hand, I also definitely agree with what Kid just said, that, I mean, so I don't have any problem with the machines creating this, that, or the other. If I have worries about it, it's more about, what are people doing to other people using these tools, rather than, what's going on with the tools themselves. And one like really interesting thing that I think that people should think about, or, I mean, there are people thinking about it, and I only say people should think about it because I'm actually telling myself I need to think about it more, is that sometimes, like, when new technologies are introduced, especially when they have something to do with art, they're not just like a new way of doing the same thing that people have always done. It's actually like kind of changing what it's all about in the first place. And so, like, I think a really good, so Abstract was already saying a lot of these debates, like a lot of the things that have been said about this, they were said about the introduction of digital photography and other things like that. But so you can go back farther than that to like a text that I would recommend anybody like read. You can read it without any background in philosophy or whatever, and it's very interesting to read now, like where we are right now with all this AI art stuff. Is a text from the author Walter Benjamin. Walter Benjamin, the work of art in the age of mechanical reproduction. And this is like a text that he wrote in between the First and Second World War, where he's like coming to terms with the invention of photography and video and stuff like that. And he's talking about like what influence this is going to have, not just on the creation of art. And of course, he was reacting to a lot of these kind of knee-jerk reactions too, where people were saying, this is the end of real art as we know it, and all these kind of things. But like one thing that I think is really interesting about that kind of argument that he makes in that paper is that he's saying, if you take the standards of art and like think and the things that we think what art is about, or what are important about art, and just try to apply that to the new thing, you're missing a big part of what's actually interesting about these new media, because they're actually changing what art is about. And so for Benjamin, it was also like a totally political thing. Like he was saying, like, a lot of the ideas that were associated with traditional art, like art being like the projection of the genius mind or something like that, were something that for him, being a Jew who was right at the edge of being persecuted in the Second World War, he was saying this actually fits great in like a fascist ideology, this idea of the genius mind that creates this artwork and stuff like that. And so he thought that that photography and video were going to be a way of introducing creation of art to the masses in a way that we're actually going to be like a non-fascist way of making art. And there's some really interesting kind of parallels if you look and see what's going on now with like the opening up of the creation of art to people who may not have the training or the ability and stuff like that. And I think it's an interesting thing just to think about, like from that perspective, if maybe this will actually like change what we think this is all about, what we think the goals in mind are and stuff like that. So it's a very interesting perspective, and I think it's going to lead to some really interesting developments in the years
I agree with you completely that the democratization of the ability to create is expanded greatly, right? Like it's amazing how many people don't create because it's barely taught in schools in terms of art, and kind of that creative thinking is something that if it's not encouraged by the environment that you're in is really, really hard to just stumble on and be exposed to and find. And so you find people that have great creative thoughts and dreams all in their mind, but they have very low confidence in sitting down at something and expressing it themselves.
Yeah,
I see AI as a really big way to one of the problems is any AI that most everybody that's in this room and everybody that can touch today, though, that AI works for the people who made it, not for you. And that is a really big distinction, between kind of some of the stuff that we're trying to do with post game and just the sort of philosophy of it. The AI needs to work for you. We don't want to look at your data. I don't care about your data, but it needs to have a heuristics model about you. And when you experience that for the first time in your life and interacting with a machine that is designed to work for you, not for the people that made it, it's a very different interaction that you have. And the walls come down in terms of communicating. And the moment that happens, the algorithms really come to life and really do the things that we try and design them to do. But it's hard to get that heuristics data to be able to design that. So you have to take a supervised learning and put the stakes in the ground and make some sort of smart philosophical logic and thinking about somebody to build a heuristics model that's good for them. And that's where this is going. You know, I mean, look, who doesn't want a holodeck? Because this is how you get holodecks, is what we're going through right now. Like, as somebody who's been paid to think about how to make a holodeck on a few occasions over the last decade, like, the thing that always got in the way was making content for it, not the actual holodeck itself. The work streams that you have to go through to make that content are heavy and require specialized skills and all these other things, and specialized software and everything else. So the more of that we can democratize, the quicker we get the holodecks for everybody.
Yeah.
I would, before we move on, I would like to add one more little thing to what I said earlier, and that's to do with my particular position. So, like I said, that I think there are a lot of like knee-jerk reactions going on to the negative aspects, and I think maybe part of my focus on saying like, okay, let's not get too far into that, has a lot to do with also my position. Like, I'm in the very comfortable and lucky position to not be dependent upon my art in any way for making money or my existential needs or anything like that. And I think, you know, for a lot of people who are, you know, artists as their main source of income and things like that, there's a whole different raft of worries that are very legitimate. And so I wouldn't want to say that those worries are in any kind of way, shape, or form illegitimate. I just don't think that they should cause us to not think about these other issues as well.
Yeah, if you think about the writers' strike in Hollywood, they are being deprived of their salaries because AI can write a script, which is basic scripting. That it's not like you have to be a very creative person to come up with a commercial movie. But yeah, in that case, the problem is more political or maybe even economic. I read this book about I can't get the name. Alex Skrig, I think it's the name. He's also an economist from England, left-winged a little bit, but makes sense what he says, that if technology keeps evolving, there will be a time where everyone's job will be useless. So what then, politically? His answer is everyone gets a salary, even though they don't work. But I don't think that powerful people will agree with that. So maybe that's our focus, or that's the problem.
It's a whole nother economic philosophy of W-2 slavery.
Yeah. Mr. X says AI is like Wombra. You don't really know what is happening, but it's cool. Shout out to Wombra.
It's true.
Yes, indeed. And also about what Abstract was saying, it reminded me that confidence is probably the key word when you're an artist that is not like putting their job in stake in this, because that has happened to me. I'm a musical major, and I've seen on Twitch and on the Golden Shrimp Guild a lot of very talented artists that do music with the Deluge or with modular synths and don't know anything about music theory. And they, in personal talks, they say like, "Oh, I would really like to be a musician." And I'm like, "What do you mean? You make beautiful music?" Yeah, but I just turn the knobs. And it's like, it's the same thing. If you turn the knobs, or if you hit the keys, or if you rattle the strings, it's basically the same thing. So yeah, That's an interesting way of putting it. You had something to say, Bardic? You went like this?
No, I was just saying I felt seen by your description.
But you play the piano.
No, I mean, I know. So let's put it like this: for how long I've been playing music, I feel like I should have a lot more theory knowledge than I do. And the theory journey has only like just started within the last year, basically, for me. So I started taking piano classes like a year ago or so, and that's been like my first dedicated try to really get into that side of things since I was, like in a band in grade school or whatever.
I'm curious on that, Bardic. How have you found the piano classes, like at the ages that sort of we're at and kind of getting into it? Have you found it like it felt good because you were filling in the blanks that you were making assumptions on? I'm asking because that's something I really want to do too.
Yeah.
Sure, I can sit down and bang on keys and make what I think sounds good, but and while there's some theory there's not, like being able to shift keys. Like when I play with Purple Bee and Jagtronica, like I'm always constantly yelling like, what key are we in? And I keep a circle of fifths cheat sheet up. So I know when they say we're in B, like what the hell that even means.
Yeah. Yeah. So my journey with piano so far, so piano's always been like one of my favorite instruments anyway. So it's not hard to like try to invest some time into that. But so, I mean, I've got, my job, I've got 2 kids and a family and all this stuff. And it's actually been really hard to like get constant good practice into my routine and also still stream and all that kind of stuff as well. So it's been kind of a struggle as far as that goes, but it feels really good when I am on it. Like when I'm on it, it feels really good. The lessons are good. They're frustrating. I mean, I think that's a pretty typical thing for adult piano learners in general, because you kind of, I think, like as one of my piano teachers explained it, with kids, they don't have the frame of reference where they've listened to their favorite jazz artist or whatever for 20 years, and they think, well, that's maybe one day if I'm a quarter that good, then I feel like that's where I want to be or something like that. They just play what they're playing and go on with their lives. But for me, it's like I constantly have this thing in the back of my mind of saying like, well, I want to be that good, or I want to be able to master this skill or something like that. And it really just takes a lot of time. It takes a lot, it's just a lot of repetition, a lot of time and stuff like that. And I'm not a great practicer. I mean, that's part of my thing too. Like I would say my music, the things that I'm good at in music are not from technical ability, are not from consistently practicing technical skills or anything like that. It's very different things, and it doesn't come to me easily. So I've been working on it, and it's going to be a journey. I mean, it's also going to be, at least I hope, it's going to be easier once my kids just get a little bit older, and then I can kind of plan my own schedule a little bit more. So that's where I am with the whole thing. And I'd like to touch on something that's going on in chat right now too, because I think it's a very interesting question too. SynthLab said theory is a box, and there's like a little discussion going on about that, about how theory might actually cause you to kind of lose creativity or something like that. And I can see that. Like I just recently watched a YouTube video that they were talking about, like from a classically trained pianist, and talking about why a lot of classical musicians have difficulty improvising music. And I think that maybe it also has a very different effect depending on where you're coming from. Because like I'm learning pretty late in life some theory stuff, and like my feeling in my ear and all that stuff, I've already developed that. Like that's something that I have, and I don't think that if I learn the circle of fifths that it's going to stop me from making some kind of weird shift just because I like the way it sounds, because that's just part of my understanding of making music and part of my ear. And I'm definitely not going to let it like hinder me and like tell me you can't do that. But I can imagine that maybe if you don't already have some of that kind of, I don't know, musical confidence or experience or something like that, that maybe it could be more of a box or something like that. I can imagine that. I can see that side as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It also, I think, has to do with the way classical music behaves. around humans, because I'm a musical major, but I learned popular rhythms. That was the name of my career. So we had musical theory, but when we started playing, we made jazz, we made Latin rhythms, and the philosophy behind those art forms is that they are popular art forms. So intuitiveness is a very big part of it, because it's made for people to communicate as humans. I think with classical music, there's again, like a political or a historic side of it that is a box in itself. It's not about music in that case. If you learn manners, table manners, that's the same world where that ideology comes from. And then you will sit in a table in a common bar, and you will look like a stupid asshole because you will be like this and putting your fork here and there. But it's the same. I don't think that it's too wise to defend ignorance also. Like, the more you know, the better you are, stuff. But I don't know. That's also because of my personal history. I've seen a lot of people that use that as an excuse for not putting effort into music. Like, I don't want to practice 6 hours a day because I feel I will get mechanical. Yeah, but you have to.
You need the muscle memory.
Yeah, but also the universe has rules, like music is an aesthetic thing. So aesthetic has rules. Intervals have rules that are physics, sounds that combine themselves and sound pretty. But I don't know. You were going to say something abstract. I think I caught you on an answer.
No, I was going to say, I was kind of going to make a little bit of a comment, that something that I've just seen in my life through work and whatnot. People who are done something for an extended period of time and are professionals in that thing, they're very good at what they do and everything. It's often hard for them to cross over into that sort of R&D mindset where everything is being built on sand and is constantly moving and changing shape beneath you. How do you function then, right? And there's one of the exercises that we did on our R&D team. We would bring other designers and developers from the other parts of the company that were more bread and butter, industrialized, sort of very structured technology development, and then bring it in. They come do some time in the lab with us, and we would go through our ideation processes and tools, which were things that we'd sort of built for ourselves, but they were very much built around oblique sort of strategies and approaches. And so, we would do things like, we built a little tool that would put 5 things up on the screen, and you had to come up with as many ideas that leveraged all 5 of those things in 2 minutes. And through going through that exercise changes your brain to think about things in very, very quick time, and to start being more abstract about how you connect things, and teach you how to tell stories about those things. But what we found was it was a big struggle for people who are coming from a structured environment to come into that environment and be productive quickly and not feel completely lost in the moment of things, right? Because your plan might change twice in an hour.
Yeah.
Because you did something and realized, like, well, that's not going to work, and then that affects everything else. So we've got to change, make a pivot now, and now we'll deal with the other stuff. So it's just running gunfight versus a staged battle when you're developing something. And I think music has a lot of that similar characteristics. Like, I've seen plenty of really good band musicians not be able to just free form and kind of go with the flow.
Yeah.
I jam band play.
I think also music is a personal journey. I mean, you can do it in a band, but it's everyone's personal journey. Medicine or architecture is not a personal journey, because someone will die if you make it too personal, So maybe also the struggle is to find someone that helps you develop that personal journey. Like, I teach music, but I always do it in a personal way, like one-to-one, because doing it in groups, the group has to be made of very empathic people, and that's not always the case. If not, most of them get bored, or unless they're little kids which are playing all the time. But I think that's kind of the way also. Like you have to look at it as a non-exact science, or maybe even not as a science. This is probably one of the most interesting talks we've had so far. That makes me very happy. If anyone in the chat wants to throw a question at our guests, please feel free to do it. We have 10 more minutes. Before we start closing this, let's plug your work a little bit. I know, Bardic, we talked this in the pre-talk, but you have a Discord server where you have some info about visual things you can do on your streams. You want to maybe talk about that a little bit?
Sure, I'll talk about that a little bit. So the Discord server and also the group is called Interactive Audio Visuals, and it's not dedicated just to visual stuff. It's really kind of dedicated to the idea of interactive art and entertainment, especially in the live streaming context. And it kind of came about due to streams so I was inspired by streams. I and a couple other people that set it up, like T-Wonku, shout out to T-Wonku. Inspired by streams like Love You Loves You stream, but also other things that aren't like purely musical based or mostly musical based, like Dandy Does It. Shout out to Dandy Does It. We love you, Dandy, and family. And so we started a group around that to kind of also give a focus to these kind of streams that didn't really fit in with a lot of the other kind of raid trains and stuff like that were being set up that maybe based around music, that have a lot of visual components but aren't like about maybe different strange kinds of interactivity that you can do during streaming. And so that's been something that's been very rewarding. We've done like seasonal festivals or raid trains for quite a while. They've been kind of on hiatus for this year, unfortunately, with very little explanation from myself. It's not over. If anybody's out there waiting on it, it's coming back. But I and the other organizers have just had a lot of life stuff, and I've been kind of focusing a little bit more on my stream as well. They're coming back. But so if anybody wants to jump in there and stir up some trouble, that will probably help to get things moving again as well. The Discord's been pretty quiet.
All right. So we have a link in the chat. If anyone wants to drop in, they can. It's interactive. There's how do you call that sign in English?
Interactive-av.com.
Yeah. Okay. And how about you, Abstract AMCR? We already talked about your project, but do you have anything else? We have one more thing to speak with you. It's the modding, because you're a very active mod.
Yeah, being on Twitch for as long as I have, the modding has added up. It's like 44 channels or something like that.
That's a lot of banning.
It's a lot of swords.
It's a lot of swords, yeah.
Well, a lot of that comes from, those early days of the Twitch DJs community, and there only being a handful of us. And so we were all mods on everybody's channel. And then we built communities. And then, like, at least in terms of the team drum and bass community, we focused on a large energy on helping other people become streamers and kind of get their streams going. So I spent a lot of time like just jumping into people's channels, and I've got a whole cheat sheet of chat commands, and and I would just get their stream elements all set up for them, and so a lot of that is just carryover from that. But
I'm always looking for some mod anecdotes. I'm sure you have some to share. Come on, 40 channels.
We've had some weird experiences.
That's the one I like.
In the day. We had this one guy that came into T-Mox's chat, and I was telling the story, like he was at a party or something, and he was chatting and he was like DJing at a party, but he was chatting to us in there or something. And then he stopped, and then he came back on like 2 hours later, and he was like chatting from a hospital bed. And, like,
Oh no.
the story that was told that happened within those 2 hours from like when he was at the party there was just absolutely off the batty chain. They even posted pictures in Discord. So he wasn't, I mean, I guess he could have still making it up, but that was just really weird that way that all went down. Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Have you had to ban a lot of people, or are you pro ban or anti ban?
I'll always time somebody out first, unless what's come out of their mouth is just completely inappropriate. And I have pretty low tolerance. So it's, one sort of slip up and you being a little edgy. Okay, I'll time you out, have a private conversation with you about it. But if you just come out of the gate with something racist, like,
Oh yeah.
it's just gone. I ain't got time for that shit, Nobody does. We're all here to relax and have a good time and not be filled with toxic blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
There was a time my wife and I were sort of semi-competitive gamers in World of Warcraft, like as Mythic Raiders. And we did that for a really long time. And I was out at an event that I'd done some volunteering for, like 3D printing some stuff for their trophy awards. It was a girl that focused on bringing technology to underserved Latino communities. It was really, really heartwarming. Like, we didn't know anybody there. Nobody knew us, but like, didn't matter. Everybody was like super happy and lovable. And it was just this great time. And we got home, we rushed home from that event because we had raid that night, and we logged in, and like the first things that I heard were just this xenophobic bullshit. And I said to my wife, I'm like, I don't allow this stuff in my personal life, and I pay for this game. Why am I okay with it now? And I quit on the spot. And took all of that mythic rating energy, which is 40 to 60 hours a week. I mean, if you want to maintain at that level, that's what it takes in that game. And I put it all into art and streaming and music, and just embraced the part of me that I'd walked away from for a long time, and as a way to deal with all of the toxic stuff I was in. And my work life at the time was just venom filled, and I needed a way. Like, gaming wasn't doing it for me, and it was just adding to it. So changed that all up, and here I sit today. My wife still raids, but she's not mythic raiding anymore. She's just having fun raiding some guilds. It's not necessarily a moderator anecdote, but it's one of those moments of just, as a moderator, like, what are you okay with? Like, if you don't allow it in your normal life, why are you gonna allow it here?
I'm sorry, my dog heard you and got really upset about toxic behavior. He was like, no, we don't allow that. No, but that's nice. It was kind of the direction I was trying to take. Also, one of the things I think we all value in this community is the lack of toxicity, or the way that we handle those kind of scenarios. So sometimes, I know it seems a little morbid when I ask these sort of things, but it's also a way of maybe sharing some experiences on how to deal with these kind of things, because we're actually making it happen. I see very low toxicity on this community compared to gaming, where people can get a little too excited about winning the game.
And in terms of like moderating, like for me, the sort of gold standard of what it means and how mods should be is actually Co-Carnage's channel. If anybody watches Co-Carnage, he's a variety game streamer, 15,000 plus viewers at any given moment kind of thing. But man, those mods and that channel and that community are just a shining light of how shit should be. And I've always looked up to them. I mean, that mod crew gets paid. Like Co is truly unique in that fashion. But yeah, those mods over there are the goats. And honestly, all of the modding that I do and everything is really modeled after what I've learned from almost a decade of watching Co stream. It's just the guy just does it right. And I mean, I always tell people like who are new to streaming, I'm like, look, go watch Co. See how Co interacts with his people, see how his mods work, like see how the channel flows, see how communications work, and how the story just rolls on. And like, if you keep that in the back of your mind, you're gonna do just fine. You know.
Nice. I had to throw one nice at the end because that was very nice. Okay, everybody, that's it for us today. We're gonna raid into my channel. Actually, I'm gonna play it a little bit for you. I want to thank my guests today, Bardic Perspiration. I want to thank my guests, AbstractAMCR. Please follow them if you like to hear them talk. Well, you should hear them make music. That's
I wouldn't go that far. My talking, my music.
Shut up.
Quite different worlds. For
don't listen.
Thank you, kid.
Don't listen. Don't listen to him. His music is great. Yeah. Thanks to you. It's been a pleasure. And thanks to everyone in the chat. I just noticed that some of you are saying that there's a problem with the audio. I'm very sorry about that. Please, if that happens again, let me know. The sooner the better on the general chat, because that's the only one I'm looking at. If you DM me, I won't get that message. So, yeah, Wombra. If you tell me at the end, there's not much I can do about it. But thank you for watching out for us. And see you next week. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Bardic, it was great being here. And thank you, kid.
Definitely.
GSG.
Yeah, it was a great talk. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, it was awesome, man. I appreciate that.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Check out Purple Bee TV.
Yes.